Shemai everyone, it's JonnyVR here with the review for episode 2 of The War Between the Land and the Sea, which aired also today, 7th of December. This episode was called Plastic Apocalypse. And again, the first part of this review will be spoiler free, and then I'll talk more about plot points in the episode. But I think Plastic Apocalypse, it continues the trend from episode 1. Has some very good tension building, lots of sort of diplomatic, tensions going on between like the humans and the sea devils, and I think again my concern with the first episode and the character of Barclay sort of continues into the second episode, and it just keeps making it sort of more a bit it's hard to explain without going into plot details, but like you have to take it as it is. You have to suspend your disbelief as more and more story points sort of like get loaded into it. It means that like for a lot of the aspects, I think that things that are supposed to come across as dramatic are not, because it's expected, because of the way that it's set up. But there are some very good tension building moments that I really enjoyed. There are some sort of connections to like other things that we've been aware of in the last couple of seasons of Doctor Who. So I don't know whether that will continue in the future of the show, but certainly in the rest of this sort of mini series. And then you get more character moments from like the main characters that like we know from the show, like Kate and other things. And there's actually a couple of things actually that went on in this episode that no doubt will play a part in future episodes. It kind of got brushed over a little bit, but they no doubt will play a part in future episodes. And yeah, I think for this one, I think the reason why the episode is called Plastic Apocalypse is again was a very I think very cool action-packed sequence, considering again what it was, and I did think that it had kind of some serious repercussions, like because it's an event that's happening in the universe of Doctor Who. And you can imagine like all the news coverage happening like on the show doesn't really happen in Doctor Who so much anymore, but like now you got like news reporters telling everyone what's happening in the world. I thought it was really well filmed, and like the way that they make it out as sort of a massive event, and it really is an escalation from episode 1 of what happened in it. And I thought I was very entertained watching what was going on. And of course it has its message, of course, like which is valid and told with aim to like let people know like this is what it is, and like people know this generally, but I think they made it well in sort of a sci-fi story. Like I think what I see from episode 2 is a very much a classic Sea Devil story, sort of in the original idea of the Sea Devil, like with this idea that they were here first and the planet sort of was theirs first before we came along. And I think that it's a natural sort of extension to that story, sort of like in the spirit of the original sort of stories, and not just like Sea Devils are there and they do their own thing. Like it's used very well, I think, in this sense. So there's not a lot more that I can say without going into spoilers, but again, solid continuation. I suspend my disbelief about Barclay some more, but I'm really enjoying it. So here's your spoiler warning. Basically the last episode ends with Barclay getting chosen as the ambassador. Again, like I was saying, this is no surprise considering the way the story is set up. He is a main character, and the fact that he is portrayed as this kind of like not supposed to be there. He's the character that's not supposed to be there, not qualified, but he gets thrown into the most important thing. It's not a surprise because of the way that it's set up. Likewise, this is the thing, it gets worse because Kate, like, who sees this happen, is not taking this at all. She's like, who is this? And they show this whole thing about, like, they bring up all of the information about his family, like, and his whole life and everything, like, because they want to know exactly who is this random civilian, as they keep calling him, that's now going to speak for humanity. Which makes sense if that happens. Like, if that happens, like, they would not just allow it. Like, they would be like, no, he's not qualified. And yet, they go hard on it to try and, like, convince them, like, to stick with the original ambassador. And the story does what it can to keep it so that Barclay can take that center stage. Like, and it's true what they say. It's kind of like in the script, Salt is like, you want to do this in secret, and I'm like, okay, you got a point there, but it's tricky because they keep pushing Barclay to the center when he really shouldn't be, and the story keeps telling, like, us that, like, he's underqualified and shouldn't be there. And, like, Barclay's, like, being interviewed by Kate, and he's like, I think you need me. And I was like, do they need him? Like, really? Like, why do they absolutely need him? Like, so I kind of have to suspend my disbelief from the story. But you got, like, lots of news reporters talking about what's going on, and who is this mystery person that's, like, ambassadors changing. And then you got, like, Albion. So Albion, again, was important, played an important role in the last 2 series of Doctor Who, being this kind of political party. So Albion in this time is still sort of, like, building, I guess, support in the news and things, like, very much a thing that's happening sort of now in real life. And then they just allowed Barclay to go on with it, and basically he has to be there because the story needs him to be there. So again, you suspend that disbelief, and they chat, and he's there as the ambassador chatting with Salt, and basically she gets offered a gift, and basically she brings, like, her children who are, like, killed by oil spills and rubbish and things like that, and I think that it's really complicated because, like, there's times where like, again, Barclay's standing there with, like, this words appearing on the screen, and he's, like, constantly being told, stick to the script, tell them what the script is saying to him on the screen. And then, of course, a couple of times in the episode, he takes out his earpiece and he goes rogue and says what he actually wants to be, being this sort of everyman, like representing, like, humanity, not, like, the political sort of parties at play. Again, this should be, like, a dramatic thing, but it's not surprising at all because of the way that it's set up. So again, that's my problem with Barclay's character. But otherwise, you get some very nice, like, I liked it, moments with Kate and Ibrahim, more sort of, like, tender moments, because, like, I kind of like the fact that they actually kind of got romantically involved, but, like, that's the thing, it wasn't in your face a romance because they're not main characters in Doctor Who. They appear from time to time, and it was always, like, very subtle, like him bringing her coffee and late at night and things like that. It left you to imagine. Now you actually see that they're actually living together, and they're, like, I think I don't recall if they shared a kiss in the last series, actually, but, like, they do, they have a kiss, and, like, I really like it. I think it's good to see these characters evolving. Does make me think that there will be something kind of dramatic happen with Colonel Ibrahim, perhaps in the latter stages of the show, because of what happened with Yanto and Captain Jack and Children of Earth. I don't know, but especially after showing that romance scene, I was like, maybe they make us like it so that it hurts more. But anyway, then you had this scientist from who was looking at these children who were, like, were given by Salt. And then he was given British citizenship, and that was really brushed over. There was not much in that, which I imagine is going to come into play in like the next episode or more. And then you have like these world leaders, like ambassadors from other countries who are like chatting all around about like having a nice life, the table and stuff, and they're only caring about who's bringing in the most money, which again is very, very much like Children of Earth. Like, it just brings that idea of like, who is running the country and what it might be like or is actually like behind the scenes, that we don't see. But again, then you got like the dismissal of this French ambassador who was one of these people at the table, and you got like Barclay being the ambassador, and the music is great throughout. And then not long after, they have this tense moment where Barclay and Salt are talking, and she asks for a glass of water, and then she specifies it should be the river water, and they bring a glass of river water, and it's very dirty, and like they analyze it, it's likely to contain many diseases, and she asks him to drink it, which is I think it's very well done. It's a powerful, nice statement, because obviously, of course, you're not going to drink that dirty water, are you? So like I really did think this kind of like tension, like in the politics, making a point. I think it's really good TV, but it's not long before they actually start to talk a little bit more. There's some hints again leading to, like, they dropped a few lines that I think will be more important later, but they talk about this idea of hive mind. They looked at footage of the way that Salt inhales, and then other, like the sea devils next to her and the other creatures in the tank, they all inhale at the same time. Start analyzing, looking into this idea of a hive mind, about like whether they're all connected and things like that, and particularly about this pearl in the neck, which was mentioned again in the first episode, but again they suspected that maybe this was the filter or something that connects them all, and actually later on in the episode, like when she's telling where to meet for the next meeting, she does like sort of touch where the pearl is supposed to be. But then comes the sort of the main aspect of the episode, is this escalation of the war. Like, and people say like this is like the beginning of the war, but Salt says like the war was begun like ages ago when they polluted the oceans and things like that, and they drop every like bit of plastic and stuff like on every city. Like, you got London covered in plastic and trash and like things like, but not just like plastic bags. It starts off like bottles and things, but then you got like appliances, kitchen, like actually the one got dropped on a taxi where Barclay's family was in, and the driver very clearly gets crushed by this, and I was like flipping out, like this is an escalation, because like this, what they're doing is they're dropping like really heavy objects on people, and people are dying because of that. And then you got like these awesome, I think, shots of like this, just the sheer amount of rubbish that's being dropped on these cities, not just London but all around the world, and it's all over the news. And you got all that social media, stuff popping up, as it would if it happened. Like, people would be talking about it online. And they even show like the Titanic. They literally took the Titanic, which sunk in the ocean, and they dropped it on a city. And I thought that was like, I just thought it was awesome, that whole sequence. And like, as things are dropping everywhere, and like Barclay goes and like to protect his daughter and things like that, I thought it was awesome. And then comes up for like this discussion between Barclay and Salt about like some demands that she has, and like she of course wants the oceans to be clean and to cease the pollution immediately. Of course, like the human like diplomacy is like, well, we cannot do this immediately. It's going to require a lot of time, effort, resources, money, that kind of thing. But it's like, they promise 50% less by 65 in 40 years time, and they say this is not good enough because people are dying every day, like people are. So they make compelling points. And you do, and particularly it's hard. It's very hard to for as a viewer to be like, well, they are saying that this is going to drain all the resources, when like the people at the table were talking about like how much money they have from all their donors and things like that. So it's like they say it's a priority, but like is it the real priority? That's what you kind of need to like read between the lines. So up until this point, it's like very much as you'd expect. And again, Barkley goes rogue. He doesn't follow the script, and it should be dramatic, but it's not, because like you expect that because of the way that it's set up in the story. But then you got Salt saying like things like that he's her favorite human, which is like something, it's something that's between them. But then what I thought was that she had three demands. One of them was the pollution, like to cease the pollution of the ocean. The second one was that all water should belong to them, and not just like this thing, not just the water, but the air above the water. And this is where Salt lost me, because I was like, this is such a huge demand. And then of course that's when everyone goes, crazy. Like everyone in the room is talking about how people need like trade and import, and like people need to travel, and people need like imports from other countries, and you can't just like landlock people if you're an island and things like that. So this was a bit of a serious demand from Salt, and she kind of lost me a bit there, because it was like up until this point she was making sense. She had all the cards and she was making the most sense. She was making compelling cases because her people were suffering and dying. This was a bit less so. And then the episode ends with the third task, which is again kind of ties into the idea of them building this tank, and like the fact that the Sea Devils are having the negotiations on land, and then this is kind of like not suitable for them, so they're like they should have the next meeting at the bottom of the ocean, like which is again cool moment. They are discussing that like this is kind of like really tricky to achieve. Barkley of course goes rogue and says like they'll do it. So, and that's where it ends, ready for next week. And that's when she's touching the pearl and to give the coordinates of where the next meeting should be. So again, it sets the scene for next week's episode. So I'm very much looking forward to that. Overall, I thought this episode was really great. At this point, I had suspended my disbelief about Barkley, so I could enjoy it a bit more. I am aware of the rumor about Barkley's character, but I'm not going to say in case you don't know. But that being said, like I feel like he could have been done better, but that's the way the story goes. But overall, again, this tension is building, with the conflict between the humans and the Sea Devils, the river water drinking scene, and the demands that she's making. I thought it was great. And there's all this stuff behind the scenes, the Children of Earth flavors, and the unit getting involved, and the plastic coming down. That was awesome. It really felt like a significant event in the Doctor Who universe. Like kind of like Planet in the Sky. The kind of events that the characters in the TV show reference for a good long while after. I feel like in recent seasons, something big would happen on the planet and they would act like it never happened. So I hope that this kind of events is referred to in future series. So overall, I think that episode 2 was great. I think it was an improvement on episode 1. I really liked the music and the tension and the escalation of the war that began like many years ago when humans start polluting the ocean. So I'm all for seeing what happens next. Hope you're enjoying it as well. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. I'm gonna give it a 7 again. So I'm really hoping that after this one, they'll have 2 more episodes next week. Let's see what they can do with this in the story. So, yeah, great. Yeah, cool. Really looking forward to it. Let me know what you think down below. And I'll see you next week for 2 more episodes and 2 more reviews. So thanks very much for watching. I'll see you then. Bye.